This is part 2 of our interview with Sebastien Mailhot, CEO of D-Box Technologies, DBO on the Venture Exchange. DBO provides motion technology to help enhance immersive experiences in theaters, home entertainment, video games, and commercial simulation markets. We are doing a deep dive into the company and markets and answering questions from our audience. If you find these interviews useful, please subscribe to this channel to see the latest videos and interviews. Thank you. Sebastien, let's get into the deep dive part of this. I want to start sort of on a bigger picture. COVID, of course, is driving a lot of things right now. A lot of changes are being accelerated on that. How do you see, I see the post-COVID life, and I think it's going to take several years for it to really calm down already. There are talks about we'll get booster shots, and it's probably going to be around us for a while. And I imagine that when people go out for entertainment, probably initially when sort of things really loosen up, we're going to go out for any excuse whatsoever to get out of the house. But then further on, we're used to watching our Netflix, playing our video games at home, being connected. And when we do go out, it's going to be for a bigger event. Let's say on the theaters, when you go to the theater, you're going to a big blockbuster with your D-Box chairs. And if it's just sort of a regular kind of art house movie, you'll watch that at home with the family. So there'll be fewer events you go to, but they're going to be bigger ones, is how I kind of see it, which it's a smaller market, but also a bigger market for you guys because you're on the higher end of that. Am I sort of thinking through that the right way, you think? Or how do you view the world kind of evolving post-COVID?
It's a really good question, Martin. I'll go quickly in the past, pre-COVID, and I will move definitely quickly about post-COVID because that's the new reality, right?
Yeah.
So when we're talking, and it's just to drop buzzword about experience economy or why people were traveling and why, etc. A lot of stuff is happening at home. But even from the millennials' point of view, people are trending out to feel something new. Meaning, when you can do at home, what you can have outside, you do it at home, right? But why people were traveling so much, etc. So in a pre-COVID world, what needs to get done is people are looking to something special. It's true in retailing, it's true in entertainment, it's true in traveling. So when you fast forward that, and I do agree with you, Martin, to your statement, meaning maybe differently is, yes, people are getting for something different. And for us, what I like about that on those two angles, and I'll talk about theatrical and the home. And I'll take a real example. In theatrical, recently there was the Kong movie, right? Probably the only big Hollywood blockbuster. We sold more tickets of King Kong, D-Box, right now with country closed, cinema closed, distanciation, take all the things we know. We sold more tickets of King Kong than we did in a normal world in King Kong, I don't know, 2 years ago or 3 years ago. So the point, as you were saying, people are craving to go out. And we see when people are saying that all these things will disappear, I don't believe with that. Because as you're saying, if I cannot go into a plane, if I cannot go to a new museum, theatrical and entertainment is a really cheap entertainment that people can believe something else. So that's what I do agree. You need to create those events. So that's why Haptic or bring any type of immersivity is essential. And as you're saying, the good news as well for us. So this is the good news about saying, Sebastien, if you bring Haptic, which is something new, something that people can feel their emotion onto the commercial world, and we have that attraction, this is going to be nice. And I think an increased need for that. And we have that people are more looking in exhibitors to provide premium experiences they create. The good news as well is we can get that thing that is coming back faster than we thought. And at the same thing in time is we have the capacity, which most of the people don't have, to bring as well those Haptic from home. So to your point, Martin, if let's take an example, even let's take a 60-year-old person that used to travel, right? Used to go to museum, used to go to les grands explorateurs, and now some are more right not to go there, they want to stay at home. If you could bring those interesting experiences right from home, for us is the best of both worlds, because the people that can go out will do that, and the people that can live something different, they will have the discretionary money to do that. So that's why we feel that angle, as you were saying, is true, but there's two angles to play it and win on both sides.
All right. First let's talk about the theater, or let's say the linear entertainment market,
Yep.
and then we'll go into the other side. Parts of the world are like New Zealand and Australia are fairly open. I think New Zealand's wide open, and then China's been doing fairly well. How are you seeing the audiences in the theaters? Like, how is their coming back to market being in the more open countries versus what it was pre-COVID?
Yeah, good question. If I say generally, the result from all countries that are opening, most of all of them have better result than they had pre-COVID.
Okay.
From a theatrical point of view, and even I was talking with Cineplex, like it's not Asia, but even Cineplex, and they opened recently a new rec room. They had better opening rates in the COVID situation in Canada, and you know everything that's related to that, than they had for the pre-COVID. So you do have those signs that people are willing to go out, and they go even as minimal, as high as they were, and even more right now. So that's why we see that we're looking forward to interesting content as we're moving along. But that's why I wouldn't have said that 3 months ago or 4 months ago, but this is definitely just proving, like practically by selling ticket, it's happening. And the good news as well that we're forgetting is, yes, it's true on a Saturday, sometimes you had a lot of people in the theater, but the general occupancy rate of cinema around the world might be 15%. So already you're distinguishing because you have 150 seats, but there's only 20, 30, 40 people. So you can have that distinction, right, without having to adjust everything. Well, so this is the interesting part on theatrical. And this is really for content and our recurring, if I say that. The second angle, which is probably, so this is really interesting for us. So I did really see a speed up quickly of the recurring and all those tickets for D-Box with our model as soon as content is there. We already have the sign. On the CapEx side, meaning when are they willing to reinvest? This as well, I would say I'll put that in 2 categories. If you're with the good horses, meaning we know that some exhibitor is getting hit from a financial point of view. If we are good horses, to be honest, and I cannot be specific, we're a public company, but we have more traction than I thought. We thought at some point in time, you know what, in September, maybe they'll start to talk about rollouts and CapEx, etc. But you really have, I would say, 2 dimensions. The one that's been hit, which is all about balance sheet and just optimizing everything. So they're going to come back, but maybe 6, 9, 12 months about planning something. But I'm quite surprised about some of others that are taking the leadership and thinking, you know what, it's time to create immersivity, and we're already discussing about rollout. So this is, like I said, pick your horses.
Yeah. Okay, so the ones that are in fairly good financial shape are showing interest. They want to invest, and they realize they're going to have to compete with my home theater and add additional value and experience to their locations.
Yeah, because I think we all agree, transform or die throughout time, not this, etc. So that's what I think is the adaptation that some are making. Do I transform because there's definitely that need, but I need to transform and get something interesting? Or I'm just trying to get, hopefully, I'm just praying, but like I said, you'll stay there because you're local, but at some point in time, people won't go if the experience is not interesting.
Yeah. Going on the linear home market with like your JMAR seat and so forth, and just hearing Netflix, I guess, recently announced they're going to be producing like $15 billion worth of content globally. And your old model in the theaters was you get a pre-production version of the movie, you encode it and so forth. And you've also talked about the subscription model. So, and then also bringing in, there's AI and so forth. So are you going to be able to encode movies on the fly or just sort of get it in your database? Like when there's so much content coming out, like how do you keep up with it? Is it through partnerships? Is it through like in the cloud, you're generating this like as they come out without the studio's permission necessarily? You just do it and add it on. How are you adding that value in the home?
Perfect. So I'll take your question and try to simplify my answer in 3, 4 bullet points. So people, but I'll talk, everything will be about scalability, right?
Yeah.
In the content. So, and you made a point, so I'll start with that, but I'll focus on your question about home. In the theatrical business model, as we wanted, of course, to provide the haptic experience, at the minute that the movie was going out, we had to talk with a studio to have access to the movie. If I don't see the movie, I don't hear the movie, it's difficult to create an haptic track. So that's why, as you were saying, we need a bit like post-production to have access to the assets, and you needed to talk with content producer from a technical point of view. The interesting part about home, and we're talking about linear content, is D-Box is able to introduce haptic without having to talk to content provider from a technical point of view. So I was sharing, there's a movie getting out. As soon as it's getting out, I'm able into a short time frame to integrate haptic code. So it means that I can provide any type of haptic or any type of linear content. We'll talk about the commercial direction. So this is the interesting part of what we can do. Second thing around that is, as you were saying, is AI. So one of the foundation that D-Box has with one of the good thing of being around for 20 years is we have 20 years of haptic code or database or experiences. So when you want to do AI, which is something that people are just throwing out in the air, the machine needs to learn from something. So as we're having more than 2,000 or 3,000 experiences, we have the data to put into a computer and have what we call deep learning machine to have the use AI to produce content more efficiently. And yes, to your point, Martin, if we're talking down the road, automatically. So you start about, and I won't be saying the number of times, let's say you take X, you divide it by 10, you divide it by 10, and you go auto. So yes, we're using that definitely because we have the bandwidth, we have the database to do that. And yes, Martin, if we're looking about in the future, and if you took by steps, there's no reason that a chip in the TV someday could be doing online coding and that you have a latency, a buffer of a second between the original content. It could be done directly into it, but you need to feed the chip with the technology. So yes, we're using AI currently already to produce massive content, etc. So this is what we do. And yes, we talk with content producer, but now the good news is we're able to talk them for marketing purposes. We're bringing new revenue. I don't need to talk to you to get your content. Legally, I'm okay. It's like Dolby putting, when you listen Dolby at home, like Dolby's in parallel to the original content. We don't modify, let's say, I'll use the term DVD or Blu-ray. We don't modify the streaming. Our haptic code are working in parallel with the original content. So we're not modifying the original content. So we're sending those codes to, let's say, I will say a computer at home. And like Shazam, what we're saying, when you listen to, let's say, James Bond movie, our technology is going to recognize, oh, through audio, okay, because we have some fingerprint. Okay, this is James Bond. James Bond, you're at minute 16, and it's going to go get our haptic content and synchronize in real time with the experiences. So we have those codes with a movie, fingerprints that are recognized automatically into our own processes. This is for linear content. So interesting for distribution, interesting for scalability. And yes, we used to produce 200 movies a year. Now we're not talking about 200. We want to present 2,000 movies, series, concert, etc. So video clips. So this is all about scalability.
And is that where the home subscription model would be? Is where if you want access, so it's listening to hear the movie code and to add in the haptic, then you've got to pay your $5, $10, whatever dollars a month to get access to that.
Yeah, and for us, it's good on two things, because I've got a high question for sure. Well, Sebastien, you need to style directly. You need to have content with your consumer. You need to have content. Yes, but the way we say, let's say we sell our haptic system to Microsoft, and Microsoft will be selling to you, Martin, let's say at home. Let's say it would be the reseller. When you buy your system at home, you need to subscribe with your user to have access to the haptic code. So yes, it creates the capacity to monetize our code. And definitely, as you're saying, as you're going to be a user of the D-Box application, I'm able to see what you watch, make recommendation, do performance, connect that with engagement of social media, etc. So that's where we connect with the fan or with the consumer through our application, through the subscription, but as well and through analytics of consumers that's going to be able to connect with them for all our product and all our experiences.
All right. I think that kind of covers the linear or the theater market. Or is there anything you want to add to that before we move to the video game non-linear market?
I think just to keep that simple, the question, Martin, are good. So as we're saying, we're able to produce massive content and scalability, and we're spinning up as we move along. definitely we want to have marketing deals, but more to increase the footprint. But this is where definitely we're talking about multiple content. We know people are watching content, video, cat clip, no matter what it is, all those things could be one day put into Haptic.
All right. I guess referring back to your going to the nonlinear gaming side of things with Audio Kinetic, can you talk about how does your revenue business model work on the video games? How are you getting paid? Are the video game companies giving you a licensing fee because they value the additional dimension of senses that you're giving the video games, or is it based on subscription, or how are you monetizing the video game side of it?
Perfect. It's going to be similar, I would say, to what we have in theatrical. Meaning, for us, we're D-Box, and we'll talk with the studio. So we're making money in two ways. Of course, if let's say Cooler Master, I'm making money, a gross margin when I'm selling to Cooler Master my Haptic system. Cooler Master is reselling to, let's say, you, Martin, as a consumer this. So we're making that first part of money on this one. Secondly, as well, on the recurring, as we're creating a recurring, so same thing. To have access to your games, you're gonna be paying either, I don't know, $1 for 24 hours, or $5 for all the Ubisoft game, or $10 in, etc. So it's the same type of model. People we're gonna be supplying to a either subscription model, one-off, or subscription or monthly, etc. So that's why we have that duplication of revenue. Same thing to make a simple story with what we have in theatrical. And definitely when we work with a Cooler Master, most of the time, as we're doing the coding, we have access to 100% of the recurring. But I could decide with a partner to sell more on the hardware and give him a part of the recurring, or get all my recurring and take less gross margin. So this is something that we're navigating and playing depending on the type of person and what they bring to the plate. Let's take an example. If I would be singing, I don't know, with the Microsoft to do all their games around the world, and they're saying, Sebastien, I'll put all the marketing everywhere, would you be willing to share your recurring? The answer would be yes, right? For all that footprint, a lot of traction. So that's we have in that. And two things, as you were saying with Audio Kinetic, is for the last 10 years, D-Box has been through simulation and training, doing what we call dynamic haptic experiences. Meaning simulation is the same thing as gaming, meaning you're on a crane, you're moving, things like that. So we need to be in real time haptic. So that it's not new for D-Box. People are saying are able to do that. Technically, we're able to do that. We have been launching Forza game with Microsoft for many years. Now we're creating, I would say, more commercial traction. So we went from making as an SDK, like an SDK that we're integrating into their game. So we went from simple SDK. Now definitely Audio Kinetic, and I said, is a tool that is widely used. So it's more to get more footprint. Some are going to be talking about Unity and Unreal, our gaming engine, where people build their game on. We're compatible with this as well. So this is what we're making. We're connecting to as much tools to be able to have a more easy integration process, even if it's not complicated, to have as widely available as possible. So this is about scalability of production and monetization of the footprint.
All right, and so you're going to be in code because the video games are real time, people are moving and so forth. Yep. So it has to in real time. Okay, you just moved left, or a bomb went on the right. You have to sort of react to that, and that sort of logic will be embedded as part of the Audio Kinetic when they're building the audio side of it. That's where you get embedded into the video game.
Yeah, the Audio Kinetic is like a producer tool to simplify the integration. Like you don't need necessarily that, but it's a simplification for them because they're used about that too. But yes, what we do normally when we talk about custom is, let's say you have a game, I'm connecting into the brain of the game. So I'll take an example. Let's say you have the Hollow game, and let's say there's a gunshot. They have library of gunshots. So for me, I'm connecting like APIs. I'm connecting with what is in the game and what we can provide as experiences and texture. And that's where, of course, we're able to react in real time. So you walk on grass, it's different. If you're jumping, it's different. You have 100 rifles, we can create 100 type of experiences, etc. So we're working with the intelligence that is in the game. And yes, we can provide more texture if they don't have a lot of stuff. So it's more engineering than coding.
All right. right now you are like, you're not a sensor, you're a haptic feedback system. Are any of your technology, are you working in any way? So if I lean left on my chair, the car moves left, or that you provide some two-way input as well as feedback so you can, so your sensors can interact with the game itself?
Well, as you were saying, we can connect to various aspects. When it's linear, it's pre-coded, so meaning you code something, etc. When you're in dynamic, definitely we're connecting to everything, so we react to everything that is in the game that we have access.
Yeah.
So this is what you're saying. So going on the left, it's going to go on the left, going on the right. So by getting into the game, they talk to me in real time, and we're able to I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but yes, we're able to do all those motion, textures, gunshot, sound of a motor, etc. They're all connected into the dynamic tool that we're having.
No, but I mean, like if I'm in the chair and I lean to the right, will that make the car then lean to the right? Is your chair or your components give feedback to the video game as opposed to just going to the user?
Right now we don't have that, but I'll do this. We could do that with a joystick. The point is we don't have a product right now that, let's say, by moving my body on the chair, but for us working from those sensors, that I put sensor into something on the phone, or I put a joystick. If I take the same thing as your joystick, yes, I could connect to a joystick, and the joystick will make left or right. So same thing, if I would be putting instead of the sensor on the joystick but on a chair, yes, I could have that traction because it's the same thing. I'll take another example, telemetry. We're able, let's say you go to F1 racing, right? F1 racing, telemetry is the information that is getting out in the car on the real race track. For us, if we have that, you'll react to everything that we have. So as you understand, this is going to be coming from a deck. So anytime we have a source, we're able to connect. It's just saying what's the hardware, what's the connection we want to have. So this could be done through a chair, as you were saying, or using a platform and go left and right. It's like the platform becomes the joystick. It's for us, same thing.
Okay, you're not there, but that could be a feature added in the future.
Just depend on what we need.
And like, I guess your original business model, like the chicken and egg problem, like you got to get on the video games, and if there are no video games, who's going to buy a chair if you don't get that kind of feedback? Although you have a beachhead with on the movie side of stuff, so you could on your Xbox. How many video games are you in right now? And like, because that's going to be driving sales of the chairs.
We're roughly 100 games.
Okay.
And we're working in various singles. So as we're saying, I'm just simplifying we're working in various angles. First, we're working on technology as well to be able to provide a first level of Haptic experience or any game from the get-go. I'll simplify that. I won't go into the details. So definitely I have 100 games. So there's an experience that I can create by D-Box and say, let's make that available to as much guests as possible, etc. Maybe the experience won't be the premium D-Box, etc., but it's going to be more than enough. So this is one way. And the second way as well, we're saying through Audio Kinetic and by discussing with various studios. When you talk with Ubisoft, they have a roadmap of game. You talk with AIAD of Red Auto Games. We make a couple of announcements that we send 10 indie studio as well. So we're approaching directly studios, big ones and small ones. We're going through Audio Kinetic. So after that, we can work with Audio Kinetic to knock at the door at all those ones that have Audio Kinetic. So this goes quickly. And as well, we're creating some technology. I'll just simplify that. So with the gaming to have a range, even if it's not fully adapted to the details, that you're going to have a sufficient gaming experience to all game available that you would want to try.
How much extra work is it for the coders in the video game once the tools are all integrated into the Audio Kinetic for them to add that haptic feedback? Do they have to hire 10 more guys to do all that encoding, or is it a relatively simple, low cost?
I'll answer simply without the specifics. Limited.
Okay. So it's not a big burden on them to be adding the haptic feedback.
No, and when and usually the first training is, here are my SDK work. Here's what you have. Here's how I can improve your game. And after that, that's why the reason we're talking, let's say with the Ubisoft, and after that, they will be integrating themselves the code. And when they learn about Haptic as well and what they could provide, like how they can improve their storytelling, after that, you just repeat that to multiple movies. So in theatrical, we are the only one coding for some reason, but in all those gaming, etc., we want to provide the development tools to all content producers to do that. So we won't do it. So this is that's where we're aiming into gaming compared to theatrical or linear content.
On competitors, are you the video game industry is highly innovative and super competitive. Are you seeing any other people providing haptic data to their video games? Any kind of competitors in that space?
Well, I'll answer specifically. There's two angles that are interesting to see in gaming. The first one, as we're saying, for competitors, right now, when you're talking about Haptic, there's a lot of solutions that are there, that went through Kickstarter, and it's okay. Like I said, gloves, vests, shoes, etc. These are entry point, and I think there's really something into it. The only limitation that they have usually is, and of course they're selling usually at 200, 300, 400, which makes sense. The only thing that they have a limitation is usually all those technology, what they're able to do, and I'll try to make a clear example, is they can only react to what's happening, the audio sound. So let's say there's a boom. Well, like a magnet that you knock on it, they're going to be creating a boom. So I'm not saying it's not good. I'm just saying they're limited to what they hear.
It's kind of like just a big subwoofer. Whenever there's a big boom,
good comparison. So it used to be subwoofer in the past that was create some kind of feeling to your body.
Yeah.
What we can provide, which of course for me is where that's what we can partner with them and provide something differently is, and I'll take an example from theatrical, but it's same thing in gaming. Let's say you're looking at a horror movie and you want to create suspense. Even in the past, when there was no music, it was one thing, and sometimes they created music to create some kind of tension, but nothing is happening on the screen. So same thing we can do with our haptic experiences. Based on the storytelling, based on the intent, we have haptic experiences, textures that are not really there to be heard or to be seen on the screen. So that's why we provide that additional layer or full experiences. So either we write with a different product, or either we partner with them as well to improve because it's going to be interesting to have, I do agree, haptic product debugs at 300, 400, 500, but it won't be a seated product. You won't have an actuators. At some point in time, you have the cost of the hardware. That's make a limitation. So that's why there's that dimension. If you're saying, Sebastien, what is out there? There's that part about new devices, consumer devices. There's definitely as well, and we saw that with PlayStation, Joystick. But right now, I would say it's first level haptic joystick. So PlayStation announces new joystick, which has haptic capacity in it. Yeah. So the first thing, you have capacity, but the third is it relevant or not? So what is the background of D-Box? And interesting is we have that knowledge of how does the body react, the brain react, how the experience react, and that's what is interesting about I love there's more hardware down there because we can improve those one. So this is what is happening right now in the haptic world is, yes, they're creating new experiences. And the last thing I'll say from a gaming perspective, all the gaming chairs, a lot of people, and if there's probably a lot of shareholders, gamers, people buy gaming chairs. But right now, there's too many gaming chairs. Gaming chairs need to find a new experience because there's too many gaming chairs. You need to differentiate. So that's why they're looking at what's the new experience that I will provide a gamer. So they buy my chair or my experience instead of going to the competitor because they're black, they're red, they're blue, but they're all the same. It's all about brand. So this is as well where there's a nice traction and a Cooler Master inside, and why we're having traction is because of this.
And just to clarify, the Cooler Master is basically a fancy desk chair with cool colors on it. It's kind of designed for PC gaming, while the JMAR is compatible then with your Xbox 360 when you're sort of sitting on the sofa and playing games in that way. Is that fair to?
Yeah, and let's go to your point is one is a gaming chair. You say gamer won't like what you said, but I agree with you. It's like it's a desktop chair, what you put Haptic onto it, and it's called a gaming chair. Yeah. So, and this is one product that you can buy it. And the second one is, let's say it's more call it a recliner, call it a comfy seat. It's more a comfy seat. But the good news we're able to do is we're building those two products with partners to address a guy that want or a girl that want to buy a gaming seat or recliner. But the good news is our trend is all those two products will be able to deliver all contents. Okay. So even a gaming chair will be able to integrate it in the subsequent month, movies, series, etc. was interesting for gamers. and your recliner out of your living room could be doing gaming. So all ones are converting from different product, but full experiences from A to Z.
Okay, so you get the full gaming experience on the JMAR Lounger, as well as the full movie experience if you want to watch a movie on your desk chair or your gaming chair in front of your PC.
That's the trend in steps, and because my son won't be buying a JMAR chair, he's going to be buying a gaming chair.
Yeah, yeah. So, is it at that? Are they fully? They're both enabled currently with that.
Well, I would say that, let's say, I would say between, well, I'll simplify that between now and I would say mid 2022, they're both going to be fully integrated. We go in step, etc., for various reasons, but let's say simplify. Yes, the chair of JMAR can do right now doing some PC gaming, can be doing movies, series, music, etc. The gaming chair will start from gaming, but as well will be able in the subsequent month to be able to integrate all type of content.
Okay, and what is the? I believe I'm getting now in my head the JMAR and the cooler. You've launched the JMAR already, and the Cooler Master is going to be launched in the future. You said 2021, I believe. Do you have like a little more timing, which month or which quarter it'll get released, or?
I'll say so roughly, and this is, well, it is coming from the gaming. The gaming are mostly launching product before Christmas, Thanksgiving, and gaming shows. This happens mostly, I would say between September and Christmas. So when we're saying 2021, I'm not saying there won't be announcement and things like that, but the big market is there. So usually they launch, or they pre-launch sometimes during the summer, they launch. So you have your product for Thanksgiving and Christmas. So that's usually the more common standard.
Okay, all right. I think that kind of deals with on the video game side. We're almost at the top of the hour, so I'm not sure how much longer you can stick with us, but we got a lot more questions to go here. So when you're, tell me when we got to start wrapping this up here.
If you left me 30 seconds, I'll just send an email, and if we say you want to have it and 10 more or 15, I can make that happen.
Why don't we do another 10, 15 more minutes if you can postpone that real time?
Give me 30 seconds.
All right. I won't sing a song to keep people entertained, and Sebastien, we appreciate you rearranging your schedule on the fly like this. This is appreciated.
Okay, we're okay.
All right. Well, there's obviously on the non-linear side of things, moving over to the simulations and the I don't know, arcade or words not coming to my head. You announced a deal with SimTag, where I believe that's with feedback on the gas pedals for the simulators. That's obviously a gaming solution as well as an industrial simulation type solution there. Can you dig more into like the industrial simulation arcade kind of market, where you see the opportunities, just in driving and flying and cranes and Caterpillar trucks and I guess all sorts of things?
Perfect, and I'll answer that as well to that people see how we can make a profitable business model with that without investing in too many areas. So I'll talk quickly about SimTag, but after that I'll focus on industrial. So SimTag is interesting when we see sometimes even where Haptic could be when we don't even think. So of course we're already in racing. So usually you put the Haptic system through, let's say, to the car or the simulators, and you do all that. What we did with SimTag, and because they're bringing that, and they're saying, you know what, an important part of the feeling for a driver, both onto racing and to simulation, is when you brake or things like that. You know, there's some resistance to create a real life resistance on the pedal, so the person could be saying if he's really braking, etc. So that's what SimTag arrived, etc. So you know what? Let's use the Haptic system of D-Box to create really all the experiences, which is really relevant for driver into the pedals. Not everyone will buy that, but that's the focus. So this is a specific project, but really interesting one, because as you were saying, it's everything about racing, it's everything about driving, it's everything about automobile, and we sign as well with the FIA, which is the Federation International of Automobile, which we have the exclusive solution. So we have access.
That's the F1. Those are the F1 racing guys.
if the FIA is the body that governs everything about entertainment racing and simulation training racing. F1 is one of the things that, and they're the reference with that. So we signed an exclusive agreement that they said that D-Box system is the exclusive system of motion that's going to be endorsing. But of course, their customer partner is the F1, is Red Bull, is Mercedes, is Porsche, etc. So that's give a big traction for us, both in terms of credibility, etc. But if I'm talking aside that syntax, so this is really an application that when you're saying about what does the consumer wants, what does the consumer needs, both from an industrial point of view and commercial, and that's why with a partner we arrive with a new solution. But if I'm putting this aside just to focus probably on the simulation and training is, I said earlier, so one of the trend, and I'll simplify that, there's two trends, which is interesting. Well, three trends that's interesting for simulation and training, generally said, as we're saying, when you provide Haptic to simulation, real life simulation, it decreased significantly the ROI of training. So that's why there's more and more Haptic in various segments that is used. So this is the first trend. The second trend, as we were saying, is in the past, when you are talking about training something, you need to spend 20 millions. Now with 20,000s, you're able to do that. So this is a second trend that is really interesting and that can create small area. Let's take an example. You want to buy a Caterpillar stuff. You go to a dealership, but you don't know it's this. Now they have simulator that you go on it. You cannot go on the field, but you can feel what it is to be on a Caterpillar tractor or something like that. So these are the trends that why people small footprint are getting there. The third, so when we're looking at our technology, we're trying to bring technology that when we work from entertainment to simulation or simulation can be used widely. So this is why when develop a system of Haptic, it went to entertainment, to simulation. And I'll take another example. Why our racing experience into our movie are so great? Because we work with real life pilot into simulation, professional simulation. So our Haptic experience is real life experiences. Excuse me, it's not a Mario Kart type of experience that's just joking around. So there's that connection. And from a product standpoint, I'll give two other examples, which is interesting, is we said we had a gaming chair, right? Haptic under a gaming chair. That gaming chair approach can be used into training because what we're saying, I had $20 million simulators. I had $50,000 simulator. How about, can I have in a room desktop training? So small chair, Haptic, maybe it does 60% of the job, but I could have 100% at the same point in time. So that gaming chair approach that you're saying, an office chair with some Haptic on it becomes a desktop training, which is a trend because we know both that you get experiences, but as well, we know, as we said it earlier from a scientific point of view, that people memorize and learn more scientifically proven through the brain, through Haptic high fidelity. So this is an example that when we're doing those products, when we're going there, usually the platform or the infrastructure can be used on both sides. So that's where we pick as well the area that we want to perform, not just to create custom solution for one market.
Yeah. You mentioned with Cineplex and the Rec Room and like sort of arcade experiences, is the trend coming back? Like when I was a kid, you played video games in an arcade. Is the trend coming back where sort of experiential events where you go in and have like you can't have a $20,000 racing simulator at home, but you could have one at the local arcade, that type of thing, or a $50,000 one that's very experiential. Is the trend going towards that?
Yes, well, we know there's limitation, but when you look at the long term, and I said, of course, Cineplex, but people, I could have bet about other people in the arcade that they're full. Like we talk with many people, they're full. So yes, there's this situation we need to, a regulation we need to do, but this is there. And like I said, and some of the limitation will be, I would say, in the upcoming year, as we're saying, going to be financial capacity. I'll summarize the discussion or in one sentence that I got with someone that I won't be saying. He said, you know what? It's going so fast that if I would have the financial background, I would open 50, but it's going to be 5 in the short term because I need to put my balance sheet in a proper order. So there's going to be some kind of limitation about going there. But yes, the museum or someone that is picking up as well. You mentioned, Martin, if I can do at home something that is interesting, why bother go home? If I can buy pants or t-shirt out from home. Why do I go to a store? Because there's something specific. Haptics goes into that category that it's a memorable experience and brings you a full life experience. So yes, we can provide that, but people are willing, as you're saying, people need to get out, right? People are doing Zoom meeting, Teams meeting, cannot go into a plane, cannot go see family. People is going to get crazy. People think that if they would know the regulation, people will just run out as a jungle and just move everywhere. We have that feeling that people need to connect and connect with emotion and experiences.
All right. Let's move on to more of your balance sheet and sort of the business operations side of things. You recently raised some money. Revenues are obviously down substantially from pre-COVID times. And I'm thinking with your non-linear or your dynamic initiatives, and then hopefully the movie theaters opening up, that market's going to start growing. What are not specific, but what is your basic strategy on growing the business in terms of managing burn versus growth versus profitability in that? Where do you, when things hopefully normalize, how fast are you going to accelerate in terms of your burn rate or non-burn rate?
Good question. So I'll start. Pre-COVID, meaning at the end of 2019, when I pick up the CEO position, we made some first, and I'll go quickly there, but we made a statement, meaning I cut some expenses because I thought that they were not providing sufficient return. And we set the company to be able to, at a $30 million level, everything I'm saying is not forward-looking. We mentioned that publicly to all the people, but just reminding. So we set that company to be able to provide 3 to 4 million EBITDA on a 30 million level pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Because I was saying, after 20 years, like to grow. If I'm growing 200% a year, I'm okay to lose money. But at some point in time, you need to make money and you need to be sufficient. So that was pre-COVID. So definitely COVID happened. So the structure, I'm going to say the structure was there. As you know, human, our memory, we always forget fast, right? If I would have that meeting with everyone, let's say in April, people would have probably said, Sebastien, you're going to be 80% of my business went out from the get-go. So if you take 30 million level like this, it was quite limited. So I think people are running out. So what we did during the last year definitely is to optimize a balance sheet, work with our technology and our inventory to sell as much as possible. And yes, Yemen Republic, we got hit this year. For sure, 75% of my money was out. So we did two things. Well, we managed a balance sheet. We optimized and simulation and training was resilient, racing, and we transformed from the home, etc. And the good news, we did that even before the financing with limited use of cash. I would guess to ask any shareholders to be in my situation, April 1st, 2020, and guess how many cash we would have burned during that point in time. That being said, yes, we did raise 5 million. So people can use the public figures that were there. We use limited, and we have the balance sheet to attack what we want to do. It was important because when you want to grow a business, you still have to have, and there's uncertainty, you still have to have a good balance sheet. It's not true you spend all your dollars up to the last one. That's not how you manage business. So that's why we raised financing in the proper condition that we could. Was it optimal? The answer is no, Martin. But of course, if I would go back 18 months ago, people would probably happy that the company was not gone down, and it was at 4 cents at some point in time. So this is what we did. So we have a good balance sheet. We were at 4 million in March, and I think public figure, I might be wrong, might be in the 9 million or 10 million after the financing. So did we spend a lot of money? No. And on the trend we're aiming is I want to get positive cash flow as soon as possible. We do know probably, and this is our best guess, and it's been changing around the time, that we'll probably have another 6 months tough, but we're looking before the end of the year to be in a trend of positive cash flow. So continue growing, but to be able to be positive cash flow, generate money. Not just be sufficient, generate money, so to be independent. So if we raise more capital, it would be for a good circumstances or a nice opportunity. But we have the cash to move to that spend, no problem.
In terms of opportunities, how important or how seriously are you looking at mergers and acquisitions, that type of a thing, to add technology or markets or clients or something like that? Is that a possibility for 2021?
I will answer more broadly to your question, but this is a good question. I'll say something that people, that if you went to in Quebec in Gouzeau Cinema, it's go big or go home. So the point is definitely, and we used to have use our currency, meaning our stock price, to be honest. So yes, at some point in time, the bus will need to accelerate. Even if we're making things right, even if we're getting profitable, let's say we're at 3 million EBITDA, 4 million EBITDA, we need to pick up speed. So I'm not announcing, Martin, any type of M&A strategy, etc. But just to a broader statement, how do we become bigger through partnership? Is partnership a GV? Is partnership an acquisition? Is partnership some kind of strategic licensing? But yes, something needs to be, which won't be just organic.
All right. Okay. Well, it's almost our 10, 15 minutes is almost up here. And thank you, the audience, for sticking around so long. Are there any final comments or anything you want to highlight as we wrap this up here, Sebastien?
Well, do a quick one for, I don't see the shareholders, but okay, I've been around for 6 years. Thanks for all shareholders that I follow D-Box. I know that we have passionate shareholders. I know some in the past, you might have some nice things to say, bad things to say. The only thing, I'm taking that company with an objective, and you can be easy to say. I'm facing the music. I reboot the plan. We did a good job at managing the liquidity. We're making the transformation. Everything from the outside is easy. I don't have any problem to get challenged, and I'll try to communicate as much as possible with Tribune as we're providing, Martin, and I'm really sure. So for me, I'm saying everything can be said. Everything that is constructive, I like that. Everything that is destructive, don't have the time to use that into my long-term plan. So we have to compete against the world with our money, but make sure I'll try as much as possible to create value for everyone and making sure that D-Box is not just a nice company, it's interesting for a shareholder as well.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And we weren't able to hit all the questions that were put up there, but I think we did a good job at hitting most of them in the basic themes of the questions there. So Sebastien, thank you very much. That was very informative, very interesting. It's a very dynamic market you're in, and you're doing some really creative things. So thank you very much for taking the time to talk with us. Have a great day, and maybe we can talk again soon.
Thank you, Martin. And just a follow up with Steve or something organized for the question, we'll be more able to organize that. Thanks a lot again. Thanks everyone.
Cheers.